Chapter 10. Megan held close to Emma and waved as Ben rode off with Jimbo. Although she was wearing her heavy coat and gloves, her cap was pulled up over her ears, and the morning wind stung her face in mean little nips, and she put her hands up to cover her cheeks. "Into the house quickly! We're freezing out here," Emma called. She grabbed Megan's hand, and they ran together to the house, shutting the door tightly and pulling the latch string inside. "Poor Ben," Emma said. "The wind's growing colder." She pulled off her coat and stood in front of the fireplace, rubbing her hands together. It had been easier on everyone if the Oblinskis had come a few months ago, when it was warm. Megan heard a soft thump and turned to see Patches wobbling toward her. She rushed to scoop him up and nuzzled him the back of his head. "Patches managed to climb out of the box," she said. Emma smiled. "Those puppies are growing fast." The other puppies yipped and jumped to the side of the box, trying to join Patches, and Megan said, "I wish I hadn't promised one of them to Mrs. Haskell. I think a dog is just what the woman needs." Emma said Moby might be a good choice for her, or Dick. Yes, Dick's such a friendly pup. Just think of all the love he'll give her. She'll soon find herself returning it. "I hope so." Megan put Patches back in the box and cautioned him to stay there. "We've got a great deal to do this morning," Emma said, "so we better get busy." Emma separated the morning's cream from the milk and added it to the cream she'd kept chilled over the past 2 days. She poured the liquid into the barrel churn. "If you'll bring this to butter, Megan, I can start apple snitzing." "What's apple snitzing?" Megan asked. "It sounds like a sneeze." Emma laughed. "It's a short word for all the work that has to be done to apples before they can be boiled down to apple butter. But I brought a sack of apples up from the root cellar before they left." And now Emma was dumped them on the work table. "They're getting mealy," she said. "No longer good to eat in hand." She immediately set to peeling, coring, and cutting the apples into sections. The slices went into the pot of water and spices, and Megan helped Emma carry the pot to the fireplace and hang it on one of the metal arms. As the apple mixture began to boil and bubble, Emma watched it carefully, stirring it with a long wooden paddle. Megan moved to the dasher to the churn up and down and listened to the cream froth and splash. Soon she felt the lumps of butter begin to form and grow larger, hitting firmly against the dasher. She lifted the lid of the dasher and peered inside the churn, enjoying the tangy fragrance of the warm buttermilk. "I think the butter's ready," she said. "I can leave this for half a minute to take a look," Emma said. She gave her paddle a final stir through the thickening apple mixture and turned toward Megan. At that moment, Patches tumbled out of the box and sprawled in front of Emma. "Look out!" Megan shouted. Emma looked down and saw the pup and tried to avoid him, but she lost her balance and fell heavily on the floor. Megan jumped up and ran to Emma, her heart beating loudly. "Are you hurt?" she cried. Emma sat up and rubbed her left ankle. Megan scooped up Patches with one hand and tucked him into the box. "Stay there," she scolded. "Look what you've done." "It's not his fault," Emma said. "He's a growing pup and wants to go exploring. I should have remembered. He could get out of the box and watched where I was going." She winced as she rubbed her ankle again. "I think I've sprained it." "Ugh, the apples!" With a wad of toweling to protect her hands, Megan grabbed the heavy iron cooking arm and swung it away from the heat. "I'll get the apples later," she said, taking a firm grip under Emma's arms. Megan hoisted her up and into a comfortable chair. I'll be right back," she said, and pulled on her coat. "Where are you going?" Emma asked. "I think I saw ice under the rim of the well," Megan told her. "I'll make a pack for your ankle to keep the swelling down." She snatched up a pan and blunt-ended knife and ran outside. The wind was stronger, and she struggled against it as she chipped at the ice. More bad luck, she thought angrily. Emma's hurt because of the gypsy's curse. "She made me a bad luck penny, and look at all the trouble I caused to everyone around me. Something terrible's bound to happen to Ben and Emma if I stay here with them. But if I were to leave, I would only take harm wherever I went." Megan was startled to feel the sting of hot tear on her windburned cheek. Quickly wiping it away, she scolded herself. "Shame on you, Megan Kelly. There's no time for silliness now. Emma needs you, and she couldn't help the little shiver that shook up her spine. You can't stop whatever trouble the curse will cause, no matter how awful it might be." To distract herself, Megan chipped furiously at the ice until she had half filled the pan. She ran back to the house and in a short time had wrapped the ice in a cloth and bound the cloth around Emma's ankle. "It's just what it needs," Emma said. "Thank you, Megan." After a few minutes, Emma tried to stand but let out a little cry and sat down again quickly. Her face was white and tiny beads of perspiration dyed her forehead. "Don't try to walk," Megan said. "But I need to tend the apple butter." "I can do that. I'm going to make you some herb tea with sugar, and I'll cook and stir the apples until they're done. You can sit there and tell me what to do." Emma didn't argue, so Megan knew how much pain she must be feeling. She added another log to the fire and prepared the tea, and swung the arm holding the apple mixture back to the fire, and began to stir it slowly with the wooden paddle as she'd seen Emma do. When the apples were finally cooked to a deep brown thickness, Megan brought Emma a sample. The tip of one finger, Emma warily skimmed the glob Megan held out of the paddle. She tasted it and smiled. "That's it," she said. "Take it off the fire, stir it now, and as long as the pan is hot, just to keep it from sticking." Megan scooped a finger along the top of the apple butter, too, waved it quickly, and popped it in her mouth. "It's good?" she said with such surprise Emma laughed. "Of course it's good. Couldn't you tell by the way it smells?" Megan shrugged and stirred the paddle once more in the pot. "It's brown and strange looking. I didn't know what to expect." "You'll like it on your bread," Emma said. "We'll have it all winter." She stirred uncomfortably, trying to lift herself to her feet. "There's so much to do." For an instant, Megan knelt beside her and examined the ankle. It looked much less red and puffy than it had a short time earlier. "I'll bind it up for you," she said, "and that'll help. But you can't walk on it yet. Let me do whatever's needed." "There's too much," Emma told her. "There's water, firewood to bring in, dinner to make." Megan removed the dripping ice-filled pad and dried Emma's ankle. Then she took the clean strip of cloth and wound it high on the ankle and under the arch of Emma's foot, splitting the loose end together to tie it firmly in place. She placed a pillow on the footstool and propped Emma's foot up. Emma sighed gratefully. "That's much better," she said. "It doesn't hurt nearly as much as it did." Megan stood and smoothed down her skirt. "I'll start on dinner as soon as I take care of the water and the wood. I may not be the best cook in the world, but I've watched you and I've learned your ways of doing things." "Have you ever cooked an entire meal?" "When I lived in New York," Megan said, "I cooked every day for my family. Ma and Francis had to work. It was up to me to buy the food at the greengrocer's and cook the dinner and care for the little ones." She heard the break in her voice, and she wondered how long it would be before she could think of her brothers and sisters, especially if Ma felt such a dreading, aching hunger to see them again. Emma took Megan's right hand and for an instant held Megan's palm against her cheek. "How lucky we are to have you," she murmured. Megan shuddered. If only Emma knew. "Please don't speak of luck," she whispered, and although Emma looked startled, Megan hurried into her coat and out the door to get the wood without a word of explanation. She made sure there was plenty of wood piled in the rack that was handy at the back door, as well as a full supply in the house, and she brought in fresh water from the well and began to cook. Emma rallied enough to complain about her lack of activity, and by late in the afternoon was hobbling around the house, with Megan trying unsuccessfully to coax her into sitting still. The day went quickly, and with many chores to do both inside and outside, and the daylight faded, Megan was glad to relax by the fire, as Emma read poems from Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. Megan didn't understand all of what Mr. Whitman wrote, but she loved the sound of his words as they marched and exploded and sometimes slipped together softly, giving shape to his ideas. She already was drowsing by the time Emma closed the book and said time for bed. "How's your ankle?" Megan murmured as she got to her feet. "Much better," Emma said, but she limped toward the bedroom. "I wish Ben were here," Megan said. In the distance she heard the howl of a wolf, and another joining in. The eerie wailing sound made her shiver. Emma gave Megan a good night hug. "I miss him too," she said. That was not exactly what Megan had meant. Concerned about Emma, Megan lay wide awake in bed, staring out her window at the clear dark sky, so cold that the light from the stars seemed to glitter and snap. Maybe Ma could look out from her window and see the same stars, she thought. Maybe Ma was thinking of Megan at the same time that Megan was thinking of her. The stars became blurry as the edges shimmered and dissolved. Megan turned to her side, pulling the quilt up to her ears and squeezing her eyes tightly shut against the tears. Pale, faraway speckles in the hazy sky, city stars are not the same as the large, bright ones that shone over the prairie. Ma wouldn't be looking at the stars and thinking of Megan. Ma would seem just as far away as those stars, in a strange room in a strange house that Megan couldn't even picture. "Good night, Ma," Megan whispered as she tugged the quilt more tightly around her. "Oh, please don't forget me. I'll never forget you." Early the next morning, soon after Goliath's insistent crow, Megan hurried to the barn to feed the animals and milk the cow. The wind pushed her to a trot, and the gray clouds, as thick and heavy as the stuffing in an old pillow, piled high, smothering the sky. A few flakes of snow prickled her cheeks. Emma stood in the doorway, calling to Megan, her voice tight with worry. "Hurry, Megan, I'm afraid Ben is right. It looks as though we're going to have a snowstorm." Megan tugged at the small door in the barn and managed to open it, nearly sprawling over the high sill as the wind yanked the door from her hands and slammed it behind her. Rosie rolled her huge eyes and shifted nervously in her stall, while Jay stamped and snorted, loud breaths that hung in the cold air like miniature clouds. Megan had let the chickens into the barn the night before, and they huddled together, roosting in the hayloft, sleepy, cold, and complaining to each other in mumbles, clucks, and squawks. As Megan worked, feeding the animals, cleaning their stalls, and milking Rosie, she thought of the snowstorms in New York City. Some were miserable. Sometimes the wind whipped the snow in heavy gusts down streets and around corners, even shaking the wooden building in which the Kellys lived, as though to tear it apart. But Megan remembered Ben telling her that snowstorms in the city were nothing compared to prairie blizzards, which the wind and the snow raced and roared across the plains for days, piling up drifts higher than a man is tall, with nothing but to stop their speed or break their path. "What about you?" she asked Rosie and Jay, who turned to stare at her. "How will I take care of you?" Jay snored and tossed his head, and Megan thought, "How will I get to them? If the snow is blinding, as Ben describes, how will I ever find the barn? The animals will be safe enough in here, but someone will have to feed them, and Rosie will bawl if she becomes swollen with milk." Slowly, Megan looked around the barn, turning until her glance fell on a long coil of rope hanging on a peg. It appeared to be about the right length, and some to spare. The coil was heavy, but Megan managed to pull it from the peg and drag it after her as she shut the smaller barn door and let down the bar and locked it into place. She tied one end of the rope to the bar, testing it to make sure it was secure, and pulled the rest after her, playing it out as she walked. When she reached the house, she pulled the rope taut and tied the other end to the post near the back door. It made it a convenient and strong guideline between the house and the barn, and she examined it with satisfaction. The snow had begun to fall in earnest now, swirling and whipping in the driving wind. Megan was glad she'd laid plenty of firewood, but hoped there was nothing she'd forgotten. The back door opened and Emma called, "Come inside, Megan, the storm's building. It'll be a blizzard for sure." Megan stumbled into the house, throwing her weight against the door to close it. "I wish Ben was here," Emma murmured. For a moment Megan was frightened. "He won't set out in this just to get home to you, will he?" Emma shook her head. No, Ben would never do that. He's well aware what blizzards can be like. He'll stay at the Oblinskis till it's safe to travel. Fear cut lines into Emma's forehead. Megan took her hand and said, the house will hold up, won't it? Oh, no worry about that. Emma said, it's good and sturdy. The animals will be all right, too. I made sure of a way to get to the barn. Megan told Emma about the rope she rigged, and Emma looked even more concerned. I don't want you going outside in this terrible weather. Megan glanced at Emma's ankle, still a little swollen. It's a sure thing. You're not going to be the one to go. Let's hope the storm won't last long, Emma said. We might have nothing to worry about. But the day had become dark as night, and Emma and Megan hurried to light the oil lamps. The wind blustered at the door, thudding against it, as though someone were beating to get inside. It screamed around the corners of the house and hammered on the roof. Emma sat quietly near the fireplace, stitching pieces into the baby's quilt, but Megan could see her fingers tremble. Megan picked up a needle and thread of a shirt of Ben's, and with a tear in the sleeve, she worked carefully, trying to make tiny stitches around the edge of the patch, as Ma had taught her, but she jumped in terror and pricked her finger each time the wind slammed against the side of the house. The storm was worse than anything she could have imagined. She pictured it as a huge white animal trying to claw its way into the house in order to devour them.